Retro Racing reports Baylands Raceway Park. 3-day affair. They had 3 programs that were essentially the same. This is a compilation of those 3. With the World of Outlaws National Championship Sprint Car races. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, November 16, 17, and 18, 1982. Baylands Bulletin. Hey, welcome to the 2nd annual Budweiser World of Outlaws Sprint Car Challenge here at Baylands Raceway Park. $52,000 in cash awards. This is the richest sprint car racing event ever presented in the state of California. Season-long efforts of track president Terry Niss, race organizer David Vauden, and World of Outlaws leader Ted Johnson has produced an all-star lineup for the second appearance of World of Outlaws on Baylands' 3/8-mile clay oval. Tonight's star-studded lineup brings together not only the best drivers from the World of Outlaws, but the top-ranked drivers from USAC's Championship Dirt Car Series, the stars of the Northern Auto Racing Club, and the top performers from the Pacific Northwest, all going for the $8,000 first-place payoff for Saturday's 50-lap feature. Last year's King of the Outlaws, Tennessee's Sammy Swindell, returns to Baylands, sitting atop the World of Outlaw point standings. Last year showed his high-flying style to Bayland fans by winning Saturday night's A feature, plus setting a new one-lap qualifying record in time trials and taking Saturday night's main event in the number 1 Nance Speed Shop Special. 3-time World of Outlaws title holder Steve Kinser had a strange car to drive in last year's Baylands race. This year, the 3-time winner of the U.S. Sprint Car Nationals at Knoxville, Iowa, will be in the famed number 11 Kinser Brothers Chevy that he's driven to victory on tracks coast to coast. Joining him in defending the World of Outlaw honors will be Oklahoma's Shane Carson, Ohio's Rick Ferkel, Jack Hewitt, and Jack Haudenschild. Tennessee's Rick Unger and Jeff Swindell, South Dakota's Doug Wolfgang, Pennsylvania's Brad Doty, Texas sends us Ronnie Daniels. Arizona has got Ron Shuman and Leland McSpadden, and Canada sends us Tim G. If there's a home track advantage, it has to belong to Sacramento Jimmy Sills in the number 1 Bailey Brothers Speed Center Special. Sills has ruled over Baylands' 3/8-mile oval since the first race last season and could be the driver to trim the traveling invaders. Another Northern California contender is the rim rider Chuck Gurney of Pleasanton in the number 71 Coors Light Yuba City Scrap and Steel Special. Gurney returns to California fresh from winning the Hoosier 100 USAC Silver Crown National Championship Dirt Car race on the 1-mile Indiana State Fairgrounds last Saturday. The Pacific Northwest has provided several of their top drivers, including Washington's Cecil Walker, Lloyd Army, and Steve Rice, while Oregon sends Gary Lynch, who's competed on the World of Outlaw Tours this summer. Besides the best sprint car drivers in the nation, we think we've brought in the best sprint car announcer in the country with Bruce Flanders to call the action. Flanders makes sprint car racing in Southern California with his often pointed, sometimes humorous, but always interesting brand of commentary something well worth the show. So in the words of Flanders, let's sit back and listen to them rumble, listen to them roar. This Bud's for you. This article appeared in the San Francisco Chronicle on May 23rd, so just a few days after the World of Outlaws show. Apparently the author Gordon Martin was present in the Baylands press box throughout the weekend. Headline: Fremont Sprint Racing Series leaves disgusted fans in the dust, by Gordon Martin. There are hardier and more courageous individuals than World of Outlaws Series sprint car drivers, and that's the fans who watch the races. For the second straight year, the spectators who showed up at Fremont's Baylands Raceway Park to watch the country's top sprint pilots were abused beyond measure. They sat on hard, backless seats through interminable delays because of spin-outs, flips, and questionable regrading of the track surface. Then there was the steady dusting from the fine grit thrown up by the sandy track. Qualifying and heat races were held Thursday and Friday nights, each ending in main events, from which the top 8 each night advanced to Saturday's scheduled 50-lap finale. Each of these shows ran late, as Steve Kinser, Tom Gee, and Rick Unger finished in the top 3 Thursday night, Ron Shuman, Doug Wolfgang, and Sammy Swindell on Friday night. As if 2 nights weren't enough to set the fields for Saturday's 15-lap C-Main, 25-lap B-Main, and 50-lap final, World of Outlaws director Ted Johnson insisted on cramming 4 additional heat races into the overloaded program. Right there, things started falling apart. Then the crew that prepares the 3/8 mile oval got it too wet, so the first of the unnecessary heat races started more than a half hour late. The last heat finally ended at 10:30 p.m., about the time a lot of well-run oval track shows are ending. It took until midnight to complete the 25-lap C-Main and the B-Main, and that had to be cut to 12 laps. That was long enough for the more than 7,000 long-suffering fans to have gone out to dinner and returned. By midnight, there was a steady stream of cars headed for the exits. Some of them, understandably testy fans, were getting in fights, and the rest were yawning and trying to rub the dust out of their eyes. 1 hour and 20 minutes later, track president Terry Niss mercifully threw in the towel, and the main was ended at 32 laps in spite of objections from race director Johnson. Why Niss didn't insist on Johnson canceling the unnecessary heat races in the first place, or throwing him off the premises, will long be debated. The only hero of the evening was PA announcer Bruce Flanders. He kept the fidgety crowd more or less under control and entertained for approximately 8 hours. Hats off to Bruce Flanders. In the main event, Kinser led the first 13 laps until he broke an axle and crashed, taking Sammy Swindell with him. Swindell restarted, but it was no longer a threat. Wolfgang inherited the lead and set the pace until Shuman took over on lap 25, and then he retired with the vapor-locked engine a lap later after overheating during all the yellow flag periods. Brad Doty led until lap 30 when his driveline snapped, and South Dakota's Wolfgang resumed the lead until the race was finally called during another delay on lap 32. To prove that a World of Outlaws show can be run on time, Santa Maria Speedway hosted 5 heat races Sunday night. C-Main, B-Main, and 40-lap finals starting at 8:30, ending at 11:30. There are some obvious solutions to Baylands' problems. First, they should strictly adhere to an 11 p.m. curfew, self-imposed if need be. Then, haul in and cover the sandy track with about a foot of good clay that would hold the moisture, provide a good racing surface, and not end up all over the fans. That'd cost about $20,000 to do that. Third, either spend the money to get someone who can properly prepare a track, or just pave it. Fourth, forget Ted Johnson, who cares more about his precious World of Outlaw drivers than he does for the fans, the true heart of any sport. Fifth, you can pay enough appearance money to bring in a half dozen top Eastern drivers for a great East versus West shootout once or twice a year. And finally, by ending early, maybe Baylands could get the Fremont cops to help move the departing traffic along instead of harassing them like when the racing finally ended in an ungodly hour. Hey, there's Harold. Glad you enjoyed that video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, put your comments down below. There's a lot more where this one came from.